On a quarter moonlit morning, November 21st, 1970, at 2:17 a.m., a daring attempt was made to rescue American prisoners of war from a small prison camp less than 23 miles west of Hanoi in North Vietnam. Ignoring an engine transmission warning light, Major Frederick Donahue continued flying his HH-53 on the initial run over the camp. His crew's mission was to take out the 2 guard towers on the west wall and the guard barracks just outside the main gate on the east wall. Upon receiving confirmation from his crew that their objective was accomplished, Major Donahue proceeded to a holding area about 1.5 miles west of the camp. There he and his crew would wait and monitor radio traffic until the ground force with the rescued prisoners was ready to be extracted. Immediately following Major Donahue's pass, Major Herbert Kalin approached the camp to purposely crash-land his HH-3 in the middle of the compound. Expecting a hard landing, Captain Meadows and his assault team were braced on mattresses to help absorb some of the impact. But the crash was much harder than expected. The helicopter's blades bit into a large tree and twisted violently before hitting the ground. The impact was so hard that a fire extinguisher tore loose and hit the crew's flight engineer, breaking his ankle. After the landing, Captain Meadows exited the rear of the aircraft, gripping his bullhorn. Crouching 15 yards from the helicopter, he delivered in a calm voice,
"Keep your heads down. We're Americans. This is a rescue. We're here to get you out. Keep your heads down. Get on the floor. We'll be in your cells in a minute."
As Captain Meadows made the announcement, the prison was besieged with more automatic gunfire as the other 13 members of his assault team headed for the cell blocks and the main gate. The assault team easily subdued the surprised North Vietnamese guards. Colonel John Allison was piloting the helicopter carrying Lieutenant Colonel Sidnor's command team. Sidnor's team was to join with Colonel Simon's 22-man support team to secure the buildings outside of the camp. Using satchel charges, they were to blow an exit hole in the prison's south wall. But as the helicopter approached its landing point, Lieutenant Colonel Sidnor realized that Colonel Simon's helicopter had headed for the wrong compound. Sidnor immediately told everyone on board his aircraft to put alternate Plan Green into effect. The well-rehearsed alternate plan meant Lieutenant Colonel Sidnor's 4-man team had to complete the job minus the 22-man support group. The helicopter crew's minigunners supplied suppressive fire as the aircraft landed. Under heavy fire, they exited the helicopter and proceeded to clear the buildings immediately to the south of the prison. There they engaged camp guards resting in their barracks, killing or wounding 22 of them, but not before one member of the team was wounded in the thigh. Team members proceeded to the designated area and blew the hole in the prison wall. 3 minutes into the raid, Captain Meadows was relieved to hear the explosion from the south wall. The fresh breach meant the command team and the support team had succeeded in clearing the way for his team to evacuate the prisoners from the camp. He was unaware that Colonel Simon's team had not landed at Son Tay prison. 400 yards south of the prison, Colonel Warner Britton had mistakenly landed Colonel Bull Simon's 22-man support team at the secondary school. Intelligence analysts had warned the pilots of the possibility of drifting south on their final approach and mistaking the facility, which looked very similar to the prison, as the actual target area. Indeed, as the helicopter formation approached the target area, they had drifted too far to the south. The other pilots recognized the error and corrected their heading, but Colonel Britton, piloting the rear helicopter, was flying too far behind and too busy concentrating on his landing zone to see the others make the last-second adjustment. What ensued was some of the fiercest fighting of the raid. It did not take Colonel Simons long to realize he was not at the prison. His team engaged what was later determined to be either well-armed Russian or Chinese soldiers at the facility, training North Vietnamese air defense technicians. Colonel Simons yelled at his radio operator to call the chopper back. Meanwhile, the school lit up with the effects of the battle. Colonel Simons' team rushed into the camp and engaged the enemy soldiers, eliminating what could have been the biggest threat to the overall mission. Colonel Britton, heading for the holding area, turned the helicopter back to the school to hurriedly pick up the team members. 10 minutes into the raid, Colonel Simons and his men were landing at the correct site outside the walls of the Son Tay prison. He instructed Lieutenant Colonel Sidnor to revert back to the initial plan. At about the same time, Colonel Simons landed back at the camp. Captain Meadows was radioing over the command net. He then checked the cell blocks himself, and 1 minute later radioed.
This is Blue Boy. Negative items. All buildings have been searched. Negative items. Negative items.
There were no prisoners at Son Tay. Lieutenant Colonel Sidnor immediately ordered everyone to prepare to withdraw. At approximately 19 minutes into the mission, some of the raiders were boarding aircraft and preparing to evacuate. 22 minutes into the raid, demolition charges inside the crashed helicopter were set with a 20-minute delay. 27 minutes after the raid started, the last of the raiders' aircraft lifted off from Son Tay prison with Colonel Simons aboard. The helicopter was 6 minutes away from the prison when the demolitions detonated as planned. Through all of the fighting, only 2 men were wounded, one with a broken ankle, and 1 man shot in the inner thigh. An F-105 was also shot down by a SAM missile as they were withdrawing, forcing the crew to eject in enemy territory. They were later rescued by the helicopter crews of Apple 4 and Apple 5. Except for Colonel Britton landing Colonel Simons' support team at the wrong camp, which proved to be a most fortunate mistake, the mission was beautifully executed. The only thing disappointing on the return flight was that there were no rescued prisoners on board.